It's the first thing we're going to tell people. Hi, good morning. Oh, God, I'm going to center us better. Hi, good morning. Hold on, everyone. I'm attempting a different camera setup for sake of closeness. Oh, God. It didn't occur to me how far left of center I put the actual camera. And just as a side note, for those of you who are going to say in the comments below, and I do appreciate and understand this, we can't hear you very well. I forgot the mics. There we go.
Nice.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to What the Vlog. Today I have the lovely Anisha with me. You're not seeing double. We are two distinct people. We're just wearing the same sweater, okay? So, like, it could be fun camouflage, though.
That's true.
We could, like, go to a knitting event and really gaslight people and just walk in and out wearing the same Twigs jumper and tell them we're the same person until they admit it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you considered this before?
We could, and we could recruit someone else to wear the third one that's in the room.
Yes. So we have so much to talk about. Both of us have psychotically knit two Twigs. And I have a sneaking suspicion that both of us are going to make a third one. Because it's like a disease, it turns out. Twigs, certainly for me, kickstarted my color work to a whole new level, but you're relatively earlier. So everyone, this is Anisha. Anisha is a regular part of our knit group.
Hi,
and
Gwen.
I literally tricked her on Wednesday into coming and doing this. Everyone else knew not to make eye contact, and she was not aware, guys. She looked right up from her pizza, right into the eyes of regret.
I was reminded of that scene in Harry Potter, you know, when everyone steps back except Harry.
Yeah.
I was on the hippogriff.
She very unintentionally volunteered as tribute.
Yes, I did. But no, I don't mind being here, chatting with everyone.
We're super glad to have you. Also because you bring, except for our Twigs mutual obsession, we have a pretty, like, divergent taste in knitting. You're at a relatively different place with what you're doing, and I would say you, from the time I first met you, you have had quite a specific visual aesthetic that you're working for with each project. So can you tell us a little bit about what's been going on with your knitting, what you're making now, etc.?
Yeah,
and I'm going to ask you some questions as we go.
Well, I moved to the South Island in 2021, and that's
the good island.
Yeah, the good island. And that's when my knitting really picked up. I realised it was finally cold enough of a climate that I could wear knitted objects.
Right. So are you a relatively warm person? Given
not
that
down here.
You're talking to the, like, Prince of the Ice Queens.
Yeah, I'm not as icy as you, but yeah, I definitely get cold down here in the winters. It is freezing.
Yep.
So yeah, picked knitting back
and
up.
And damp, everyone. Freezing and damp. Thank you, Canterbury, and our ancestors who settled here.
Yeah. In 2021, and it was with like before that. So I learned from Mum when I was like 5, like everyone, right?
Yes,
we all was just doing scarves.
Early days, yeah.
Yeah,
scarves piggy squares, etc.
Squares and rectangles and anything that didn't
quote unquote
require...
scarves for the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been down that road.
Yeah. No increases, no decreases, no yarn overs, nothing. But yes, anyway, my first item down here was like a ballerina wrap cardigan, and I've always been, is it a project knitter? You know, the process versus project? Yeah. Yeah,
see, I'm also a project knitter, not a process knitter. Like, I'm not into the sitting around and knitting necessarily. Sorry, everyone. I'm not into the sitting around and knitting. It's a thing. So you're also project oriented. I love that, personally.
Yeah. So I think about, like, I go on Pinterest, I go on Instagram, whatever. I get inspiration just out in the world of other people that are wearing beautiful things that inspire me. And then, I find a pattern that looks a bit like it, or I could make the colours work to look like it, and then off I go. So, I did my first Twigs in some yarn that you have here. So this was mostly Isager Highland.
Which I'm a huge Isager fan.
With some alpaca too. And this one, it was definitely a project. I had this vision of myself wearing this at a cafe on a really Saturday, beautiful. And I wanted it to be high contrast but like very dark. It just worked out. I didn't even swatch. And I didn't know anything about like high low contrast. I was very happy with this one.
I think that's often one of the better parts about being at the beginning of the knitting journey is like when you don't have a concept of or a set idea of how hard something is, you can just plow through it.
Yeah.
And it sets you up, I think it sets people up well for the rest of their knitting.
Yeah, and some of the chat around the twigs is kind of, like, it sounds kind of prohibitive. It sounds hard.
Right.
Like, a lot of the comments on
small needle.
Ravelry and Instagram were like, yeah, this is like my magnum opus sweater, and all these comments, just because it is, tiny needles, 2.75 mil for the body.
I didn't find that prohibitive, personally.
It wasn't. That's what I mean. Like, once I actually got started on it, it was like colouring in for adults. It was so fun getting to the next colour work portion.
Just out of curiosity, because I think you're better at tracking these things than I am, do you have an idea of how long each of your twigs took you?
Yes. This first one took me 3 months.
Okay.
I popped it down, picked it back up again, had some other things on the go. But it was pretty monogamous. I'm not a fast knitter. I'm quite slow.
I think monogamous knitting gets you through projects still, though. Touching the same thing every day a little bit really gets you somewhere if you're not a fast knitter. So, like, I would say to everybody at home, if you are also not a fast knitter, definitely play the one project game. My first one took 3 weeks. I was already quite far along in my knitting journey, though, and I knit a lot of color work flat on relatively small needles, so my hands are quite well conditioned for it, and I'm quite deep on color work knitting already before I got to this one, and this one I did in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you knit with both hands, don't you? Color work.
Yes, I do. Are you a one-hander? Okay.
I drop the yarn, pick up the other one, and that was like one of the reasons why I wanted to do the second one, besides just playing with all the fun colours, was that I wanted to learn two-handed colour work.
And how did that go?
I didn't learn it.
Yeah. I would say this is not an ideal project to learn two-handed colour work on.
No, you need really consistent tension. It would look silly if you didn't. But I also just realised I don't care too much about the speed. I do this because I enjoy it. And yes, I want the object at the end. And for this one, I had the tight deadline of your knit along to reach.
I think 2 months is a very generous deadline.
Well, it was. But my first 3 weeks was spent knitting actually a third Twigs, a different one. And I got to here and realised I hated the colours. So I started over. So I had about, I think, 6 weeks on this project.
So Jen really loves the colors that you've chosen, and I agree. I love both of your Twigs colors. Jen had, my original Twigs is with Jen, and this is my second Twigs, and they're actually quite similar. They both have a navy background, except this one I used Spin Cycle dyed in the wool in a discontinued colorway. That you can't get anymore, and there's nothing else like it in their collection. And I think it's Sunset Strip, if you're wondering at home, and you can find it on a D-Stash page. I really love this twig cycle, and knitting a twig cycle was actually the whole point of knitting a twigs. The first one that I knit a long time ago, Rachel Price, if you want to follow her on Instagram, she is famous for cardiganizing everything, and she made a double spin cycle twigs that she made into a cardigan. Nice. And I was just really obsessed with doing a spin cycle twigs from there, and I'm really glad that I did. And I'm glad that it still fits. I haven't put this on in a couple of months, and I was definitely digging it out of its bin yesterday. I was like, oh boy, I hope it goes over. But now you are on a tear of a different sort. So you have made something sort of similar to this one, and you are a glutton for what you're working on now.
Oh, yeah.
And you are a glutton for punishment, and you're right back to the well, but with less baubles. Yeah. So do you want to tell people about your little vest adventures of recent days?
So it was poor timing on my part, to be fair. I started a couple months ago picking up a couple of patterns that had been on my wish list for ages, that they're like open, so there's a front and a back, and then a closure of some kind, buttons or
a tie.
I-cord tie.
Yeah. A lot of I-cord.
A lot of I-cord. So yeah, I'm kind of late in the season now. It's winter, but vests are really practical with big coats because you don't have to squeeze sleeves into the coat, but you still got the warmth of the vest itself. So yeah, I finished the Bloom Bobble Slipover
A lot of bobbles.
It was a lot of bobbles, and it was my first time doing bobbles.
How did you feel emotionally about bobbles by the end? Because some people by the end of their first bobble project are traumatized.
I was having a chat with Kit, and there's lots of different ways to do bobbles. And the way that I did, I just followed the pattern. I didn't look it up.
I would say that our dear Kit is a glutton for punishment. I don't know if you've seen Kit's crocheted blanket, which is absolutely amazing, but I'm not sure I would trust Kit to rate how. I've never seen someone plow through more difficult, uncomfortable looking knitting and crocheting than Kit so quickly. It's amazing to me. I mean, that is a high compliment. Your second Twigs, just before we go on, is Alpaca 2 as the main color.
Yes, I did.
And then some Highland and I want to say more Alpaca 2, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so I followed it to pattern completely. The only difference between these two, I actually used a lot of the same colours, so they look really different on the dark background versus the light, but mostly I was using scraps from the first Twigs to do the second. I just bought a new main colour. But yeah, this one is mostly Highland, and it has, I followed the pattern completely, so it's on 2.75mm needles. And then this one, yeah, only difference is I went up 0.25 of a needle size for all of the instructions, so it's on a 3mm for the body, and it's mostly Alpaca 2, with like Highland being some of the colour work. But it's come out completely the same width. It's only the drape of the yarn is fallen way longer. Yeah. Like by that much.
If you want it to come out significantly larger, I would recommend going up to 2 sport weight yarns, which is what I did. So I used Rebel Light on a 3.25mm needle and dyed in the wool, still obviously on the same size needle. And then I did a really annoyingly tricky thing where I went through like 4 different sizes at the neck ribbing to make it sit the way that it does on me. And then I think I went down to a 2.75 for all the ribbing. Yes, and I knit mine longer, and I think on this one, on my previous one I had to add an extra motif at the bottom to make it long enough, and on this one I didn't, so it came out significantly larger in every respect. So if you do go up both yarn weight and needle size at that 3.25, you can get a significantly bigger one. What do I do to make it come out smaller? You could go down a needle size, Allison, but there are diminishing returns on reducing needle size under 2.75, so you may find you have to go all the way down to a 2.25. It's very hard because of the 3 big repeats, which do not line up. So the wheat sheaf here, the little candelabra trees, and the big motif at the bottom do not have the same repeat length, and they're all very long. So taking any one of those out, even 1 repeat's worth, makes a really big difference to the overall jumper, and you kind of have to fudge it. Yeah, so the problem I would say with trying to reduce, if you want to reduce the size of this, people have done it. You can find it on Ravelry. I think it's kind of a lost cause personally, trying to make it smaller, because that's not really its purpose. So you're trying to like force it into something it's not if you do that. That's my hot take. What do you, you've knit too as well. What are your feelings?
I have, and I think so this one being Highland 100% wool on 2.75mm needles, I didn't get gauge at all. I was miles off gauge, and it ended up being a lot shorter, a lot less wide, and bracelet length instead of properly long sleeves.
Yeah.
And I love it. You see me wearing it on knit nights.
It's so cute.
During the during the work week. It feels really nice and polished on top of like a midi dress and some boots with, I just tuck it up into a belt, and so yeah, I do like it. It's really the least like slouchy, oversized as well. I just have different purposes for both of them.
It's also pretty important to note that the original pattern that's knit on 2.75mm needles is knit with a very thick and heavy, like sport weight yarn that doesn't like reflect the outcome.
I went on Ravelry recently and had a look, and I think they've updated that yarn to a worsted.
The Moeka Elena singles, yeah, it's a very like it's a single spun, quite rough Romanian wool, and when it blocks, it plumps up quite a bit. So even just going down, like if you were to knit that on a 2.75 millimeter needle with the tweed from Isager, I think you would get a smaller pullover than if you did it with the one that I'm wearing, for example. Yeah. So that's another way to probably bring the size down a bit, but also because of the way it's shaped, if it gets too small, you're going to be like trapped in it, like an elbow locking straitjacket. Because the reason that
I noticed that more with this one than my first one. Like the yoke is very deep. Like my armpit's up here. It can feel a little bit like
it's supposed to be quite deep, so like it has to have some good size to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like I think we should both be honest and transparent. It's not a like practical garment. It's definitely a like weekend faffing about garment. Like, don't look to be like doing something while wearing it. Now,
don't like lift your arm up to the highest shelf.
No, not in front of people. Not unless you want to be giving a show that you should probably be charging for, depending on your garments of choice underneath. Now, tell the people what you're working on now, because this is continuing your slipover a-thon.
Very similar to the last one, but this one is the Lulu slipover, which I'm sure practically everyone has heard of. By
you say that, but you never know. So this is a petite knits pattern. We are about to be carrying the petite knits patterns. They are somewhere. Like they're in transit through the Danish mail system, so we'll find out.
So this is in Peer Gynt by Sandnes Garn. It's their tweed. You probably can't see it on camera, but it's beautiful.
No, it's got quite a good spot. If you actually just cover our faces and hold it up to the camera, it does generally a pretty good job of picking it up.
Nice.
There we go.
Yeah,
hopefully you guys could see the little tweed effect. It is quite beautiful. A worsted spun tweed where the stuff doesn't fall out is a rarity.
Yeah.
So that's worth noting. Oh my goodness.
True. Yeah, so it's a cream yarn with all sorts of colours flecked throughout, which made it really fun to pick out buttons because it's similar to the last one. It's going to have double knitting on the side and then buttons is the closure. And I can, like, you can pick any colour anytime, but I like to match the colour. So I was looking through all of the flecks and yeah, practically I could choose any colour for the buttons, but I've gone with a nice butter yellow and I'm very excited to add those.
Ooh.
Yes.
That does sound exciting.
Yeah.
I am making another crosshatch because we are doing a crosshatch and other rectangular wraps knit along. You don't have to knit crosshatch. There are other choices, and it is casting on at the end of July and running all the way through till the end of December. At any point that you finish, we're making the prizes easier. At any point that you finish, everybody watching from home, we're just going to give you a 15% discount from now until the end of the year to try to motivate you to get a big rectangular wrap done and to try to convert people like Anisha who are opposed to the concept of shawls. I think you're ready to admit that they exist, but you're opposed to the knitting and making of them. Despite the fact that I tried to tempt her with the test knit that I did earlier today, and I think we can get a review that it is soft and warm and light.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but it was still a hard no. It was are you drunk? That's okay. The good news is I have some pre-recorded episodes of this podcast, by the way, that you are going to be seeing starting next Saturday for 4 to 5 weeks, and then there'll be a little break, and then I will be back. Just as a side note, sorry, I have to do a little housekeeping before we move on. I am off after next Wednesday's knit night, and you will not be seeing me for a while. I need to take a break. It's been, you'll still see me, but just pre-recorded me, not live me. And then I'll be back in August with more live episodes, possibly with Anisha, possibly with Christine, possibly with both of them. You never know who will trick into coming in the morning.
Yeah, you can trick some others in.
I'm definitely going to work on it, and hopefully we will be back with more episodes of How's the Flock starting back in August as well. I'm also just going to say this openly because I've had a lot of questions about it, and I will continue to. Today is my last scheduled regular shift at the shop. I will no longer be here for necessarily set hours ever again. It's necessary so that I can get some stuff done in the rest of my working life, and we have a great team here who are here to help. If you do feel like you absolutely need to speak with me, you need to send an email into help@getflocked.co.nz, and someone who answers that email inbox, which is not my direct email address, Anisha, don't tell them, will get in touch with me and we will sort a time out to get together, all right? I am still offering one-on-one knit coaching, but we are making a focus on our knitting groups right now and doubling down in August. Anisha and I participate in more than one knit group together. We will be knitting both on Tuesday and Wednesday together this week. And hopefully we'll be adding more groups to that over time. So feel free to join us the last Tuesday of every month at Pommeroy from 6:30 till whenever we all break up. There are drinks and food specials for everybody who comes. Mulled wine, and a great atmosphere and a chance to get together and connect with other knitters. I'm also going to say now, overall, going forward, I am moving away from teaching classes here at Get Flocked. What I want to do instead is start running some goal-specific knitting groups, possibly, if you wanted to come in and work on some stuff and get forward. So there will be different weekends as we start to revamp our seating area at the back. Our Saturday knitting group is really taking off. And over the next little while, we're gonna all be exploring some different stuff as knitters. And I think we're gonna start to try to make our knit-alongs help people get some better or different skills acquired, as opposed to trying to run classes and courses, so that it's a time for you to drop in. So we'll do like an 6-week focus on color work with a color work knit along tied into it and that sort of thing. So this is where we're headed to. And if you're wondering why, because people may wonder, I was thinking back to when I first started knitting like this and why I was able to get so much better at it. And the reality is there was a strong knitting community that had knit-alongs that were more than just knitting the same project. There were times to get together and work on skills and build and grow things that weren't classes. And I think as a worldwide knitting community and as people who run knitting stores and who teach, we should be attempting to find other ways in our local communities especially to be offering these things to people. It's my hot take. I don't know what you think, Anisha, as a consumer of knitting content, but this is my opinion as somebody who provides it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that people like you who are more experienced in these groups and stuff are there to help other people grow in their knitting journey. So it's not like a singular teacher in a like set curriculum. It's come in with a project, let's work through it, and as we find things in our projects, we work through those together as a group and grow from that. And that's what we're doing now. So welcome to a very heavily community-focused era of Get Flocked. Also, oh God, final housekeeping push. Let's get through it. And then we can talk about our upcoming projects from the books. Whew, 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 deep breaths. Our birthday is coming up, and Get Flock's birthday, I've decided, is always going to be a floating date. So don't be surprised by this, but I'm starting the sale before I go away. So it's starting today. Today. Hi. So from today for the next 2 weeks, if you purchase any redesigned project, you will get something either at a discount or for free along with it. Right? Now, if you purchase a project 9 or a project 10 or a bucket or anything else that contains yarn, possibly a project 4, who knows? I just had these all at home.
And many more.
Shh. You could get a 39. You could get a project 4. I think the 40's over there by you, the big burn tan one. Could you just do a little lift and assist?
This is a big one.
A project 40 for all of your weekend knitting needs. You never know. Like, you should always take a selection of projects, okay? You get the yarn that goes into these at 15% off. So buy a redesigned project item and get something at a discount that goes with it. Now, for example, though, if you were to buy a scissor pouch, we're not going to give you a discount on scissors. You're going to get a pair of scissors. You have to add them to your cart. If you are buying a stitch marker holder, one of the little beautiful tubs that we have here, boop, boop, or one of the little stitch marker wallets that I'm obsessed with, that the video next week you're going to see more than enough about that. So we don't really need to go into great detail. Then you can go ahead and add some free stitch markers to your cart. So this is running for the next 2 weeks. We're going to send out a newsletter about it so you guys have time. And I believe that everybody who makes a purchase is going to be entered in to a draw to win a small bucket and lid. So if you buy a redesigned item in the next couple of weeks, you're also in it to win that. And if you buy a bucket, you get 15% off the lid and divider. What? So there we go. And of course, obviously, actually, this is the most exciting part because we have just restocked them on the website as well. So you can order them on the website and get this at a discount. If you buy a Project 7 or a Project 14, so one of the needle cases, you get 15% off any needles or tools, and that includes needle sets. And we have just restocked the Chowgoo sets. So if you've been waiting to get yourselves both, and I think we can all agree, the Chowgoo cases that they come with leave everything to be desired. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they're... Do you have a Chowgoo interchangeable set?
No, because the case is too ugly.
The case is like...
So I bought them all individually.
Oh my god, right? The case is quite phenomenally ugly. I can admit this. And it's also very awkward to use because the zipper for all your tools is on the outside and all of the needles are on the inside. Like, it's just very weird, Chowgoo. It's very awkward. But the good news is you can get a Project 14 and 15% off that, and then you can just take everything out of that Chowgoo case, put it in here. Your life will be way better. And the Project 14 holds 2 full sets of interchangeables, so you could get one Project 14. Don't be crazy. I have 2 Project 14s. You might not need that yet. Get one Project 14 and the long and the short tips, both at 15% off. Just set yourself up forever. Don't even waste your time. So that is what's going on. So that's for the next 2 weeks. I won't be here. I hope you all enjoy and indulge. We have a vast amount of redesigned on the website, and even more because we are proud to be New Zealand's largest stockist of redesigned and the second largest stockist of redesigned in the world. So that is always super, super fun.
I've done my pre-order.
Yes.
Project 10.
Yes, your Project 10 is on the way. Mm-hmm. I know. So what are you getting? Tell the people in case they haven't gone on the website and stocked it as thoroughly.
Yes, I was checking the website daily and I still missed the updates, so I'm sure other people have too.
Yes, there have been several redesigned updates. That is for sure. So you got a Project 10, which is this size.
Yeah, which is the bigger out of the 9
The
and
bigger
10,
out of the 9 and 10,
so I can fit all my projects in all at once.
Yes, as Mary demonstrated on Wednesday night.
But I got the torn and cut multicolored, so they save up all of their leather scraps from these bags.
That's right.
And quilt them together, patchwork them together.
And they do those both in a monocolor and a multicolor. And you got the multicolor.
I did.
Which I will tell you all, I got the multicolor in something as well. But I got the multicolor in what is actually by far my favorite project. And I probably use this one the most. I think that's fair to say. My most used redesigned project item is actually my Project 3. Wow. If you're somebody who takes a couple of things in a laptop with you every day, this is by far the most useful project I found. And I got this in the torn and cut multicolor patch. And we have one available for order as well. So there is a big, broad selection. We have definitely been pumping it up. I can tell you as well that we will have the green in all of the different options that they're making, and we will be working to bring you fresh, hot redesigned all the time. So we have also beautiful double-pointed needle cases on the way that are great for all sorts of different storage. If you buy those, you get 2 sets of double-pointed needles, and every other possible thing that you can think of. Now, you and I have both been swept up in an Isager frenzy. Yeah. And we're both going to be possibly casting on something quite shortly for no good reason out of Isager and Knitting Life Volume 3 by Mariana Isager. Mm-hmm. So I've already made one thing out of this, my circles and stripes, I don't remember, pullover. Something circles, something stripes, Isager, blah, blah. Oh, that could call up so many.
It's over there.
No, I know, but all I'm just thinking is...
Circles and stripes.
It just could call up so many different... we were all being like, no, I'm going to knit the square pullover. And then I was like, and then it turns out there was like 5 different squares pullovers. Yeah. And so we had to ascertain which one. So I'm going to knit squares from number 1, but we're going to focus on our number 3 projects right now.
Well, I'm going to surprise you. I'll show everyone first with the one that I've been gushing about and trying to convince everybody.
Someone is knitting it right now.
Yes.
Someone in our knitting group is knitting this as we speak. So this is playing with squares. Oh my god.
And it's honestly, this whole book is really good for Isager leftovers, I found. So obviously I have heaps of them because I've knit both of these twigs, and they, like, each of the colourwork panels uses 0.2 of a skein. Yeah. So I have every colour under the sun in Isager, and this pattern
Every colour under the sun in her palette in Isager.
Yes. Yeah, this pattern's going to be great for scraps, so I'm going to make a really multicoloured version of this project. But it is fingering weight on, I assume, 3mm
needles.
Yeah, so it's going to be a big project.
Well, it's garter stitch. It'll go fast. You'll be surprised.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of casting on before then, because I keep knitting vests in the middle of winter.
Yes, you do love a winter vest.
Well, it's not silly. It's just there reaches a point where like I need some mohair, I need some more lightness. I'm going to be casting this one on.
Oh, yes.
So this is the Kansai cardigan. Where's the camera? There we go. On the left, the jacket version.
It's the cover one. This is so funny. I was just saying last night, I'm casting on each of the cover ones except for this one. It's the only cover one that I haven't had a plan to make. So Kansai is so cool.
Yes. And I have a lot. I brought all of my Isager scraps to match up with mohair today.
Amazing.
But I miss playing with colour. It's been a couple of vests now that I've just done in one colour, and I miss playing around with like colour placement. So yeah, this is going to be my next project, and it's going to have, there's 6 colours and only 3 of them have mohair with them.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to have some fun swatching for that.
Amazing. Well, I'm actually going to be casting on out of that book next myself.
Which one?
So I'm going to be casting on Samurai, because at the moment I have Pelicans, the cover jumper of this particular book, on the needles as a sample for the shop in Alpaca 3. So this is a Knitting Life Volume 2. And after I get back, I'm going to make Squares, which is the cover jumper from this one. And
this is the one you made, eh?
Yes, this one's quite chaotic. You actually, for the one that I'm going to make out of this book, you have to find it at the back because the photos up front are just the inspiration and how-to photos. So this is the version of it that I'm going to make, and it is a bias knit modular entrelac garment.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and there's also optional intarsia in the entrelac section if you wish. Yeah. Sometimes, everyone, you just have to remember when you're sitting there reading a Isager pattern and they're like, if and are optional. You don't have to do what the crazy Danish people are saying. Okay, like, I mean, you do, but you don't. So Samurai is definitely my next plan, and I'm going to do it in 3 shades of red.
So this is the Samurai?
Yeah, and so it's meant to be, what you do is hold one color of Tivini, and then you change the color of silk mohair for each of the sections to make the different colors. But what I'm going to do is use one color of silk mohair and change the color of Tivini. So I'm going to use silk mohair in number 32.
She does that in the pottery one too, doesn't she?
Yes. She plays a lot of cool, fun tricks on your brain in this book.
Pottery?
Yeah.
Am I showing it? No.
I think so. I hope so. Any hoodles. So these are the 3 Knitting Life books. They've definitely been a group and an individual fixation for the 2 of us.
You got me obsessed.
Yeah.
I can't put it down.
I think, honestly, if you are out there and you've done some petite knits, or you've done some My Favorite Things knitwear, or some Andrea Mowry, and you've got your feet under you as a knitter, I think that stuff like this is the next phase of expansion. It's modern, it's wearable, it's very cool. And if you want to kind of like tiptoe your way in, there is also the Archives collection from Isager. It was launched in 2023, and what it is historic patterns from the Isager library that have been updated by modern designers with modern constructions and techniques, all using Isager yarns. So check that out. Anne Van Sal, My Favorite Things knitwear, petite knits are just some of the few of the Danish powerhouses that are represented, updating Asa Lund Jensen's original patterns into modern techniques and knitting styles. And I think that you will find, like, there's something with Isager for everyone.
And those are some really popular patterns on Instagram too. Like, people would have heard of the pattern but not know the collection.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Like the Norma sweater and the Esther jacket.
Yep, they're all from that particular collection.
Levitate wrap as well.
Yes.
And that beautiful yarn you were all making, the Sophie shawl.
The Isager Eco Soft, just called Isager Soft now. Okay, well, we have to go. That's the end of the show. Thank you so much for being here, Anisha. I hope some of you could hear